Hello everybody. So we are back with another video of sustainable development goals. In our previous video, now we know that there are 17 sustainable development goals. In our previous video, we have covered 5 sustainable development goals. So now we will be covering rest of the sustainable development goals in this video. So if you have not seen the previous video, please go back and watch those 5 sustainable development goals, which are very important as far as your UPSC is concerned and other competitive exams are concerned. So let's get started with other sustainable development goals.
The sixth SDG is clean water and sanitation. The objective is to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. करीब 85 करोड़ लोग they still lack basic drinking water all over the world. 230 करोड़ लोगों के पास बेसिक सैनिटेशन फैसिलिटीज नहीं है और आज भी करीब 90 करोड़ लोग ओपन डेफिकेशन प्रैक्टिस करते हैं. 80% of wastewater goes into waterways without adequate treatment. The seventh SDG is affordable and clean energy. The objective is to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. आज भी 7 में से 1 इंसान के पास इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नहीं है and most of them live in rural areas of the developing world, and this is why we need affordable energy. Energy is the main contributor to climate change. It produces around 60% of greenhouse gases, and this is the reason we need sustainable and modern forms of energy. More than 40% of world's population, which is around 300 crore, rely on polluting and unhealthy fuels for cooking. इंडिया में भी बहुत हद तक ऐसे ही फ्यूल्स यूज होते हैं, स्पेशली गांव वगैरह में, जहां पे लोग लकड़ी यूज करते हैं या बाकी चीजें यूज करते हैं फॉर देयर कुकिंग नीड्स. This has to be replaced, and that's why we need some modern energy fuels like LPG. The eighth SDG is decent work and economic growth. The objective is to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. 2018 में करीब 17 करोड़ लोगों के पास किसी भी टाइप का काम नहीं था. They were without any form of work, and unemployment rate of 5%, which is very high. Women's participation in labor force stood at 48% in 2018, जो कि 75% था for men. लेबर फोर्स पार्टिसिपेशन रेट का मतलब होता है कि वर्किंग एज ग्रुप में, जो कि जनरली 15 टू 59 डिफाइन होती है, उस एज में कितने लोग हैं और उनमें से कितने लोगों के पास काम है प्लस कितने लोग काम ढूंढ रहे हैं. So around 3 in 5 of the 3.5 billion people in labor force in 2018 were men. This shows that women are not able to get employment, or they are not able even going to the opportunity कि वो बाहर निकलें और काम ढूंढने की कोशिश भी करें. That means the process is not inclusive. It has to be made inclusive, and it has to provide a decent work environment for all. The ninth SDG is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. The objective is to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization. Developing countries में barely 30% of agriculture products undergo industrial processing, जबकि ये 98% है high income countries में. इंडिया में भी food processing बहुत कम है, जिसकी वजह से क्या होता है, it leads to high levels of wastage and also low incomes for farmers. In some low-income African countries, infrastructure constraints cut businesses' productivity by around 40%. इंडिया में भी बहुत सारे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बॉटलनेक्स हैं, जो कि अब गवर्नमेंट धीरे धीरे उसको रिमूव करने की कोशिश कर रही है. इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बॉटलनेक्स हम समझते हैं कि कहीं पे रोड नहीं है, कहीं प्रॉपर पोर्ट्स बिल्डअप नहीं है, पोर्ट हैं तो उसकी कैपेसिटी उतनी अच्छी नहीं है. वी डोंट हैव इनलैंड वाटरवेज एज हम यूरोपियन कंट्रीज में देखते हैं, वहाँ पे कितना वेल डेवलप्ड वाटरवेज हैं. Then 2.6 billion people in developing countries do not have access to constant electricity. जब हम SDG 7 देख रहे थे, we also talked about reliable energy for all. So यहाँ पे देखिए करीब 260 करोड़ लोग ऐसे हैं जिनके पास constant electricity नहीं है. This is a barrier to their personal as well as professional growth. The 10th goal is to reduce inequalities. The objective is to reduce inequalities within and among countries. हमें एक कंट्री के अंदर भी inequalities डिक्रीज करनी है और जो कंट्रीज के बीच में inequalities हैं डेवलपिंग एंड डेवलप्ड वर्ल्ड के बीच में और लीस्ट डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज के बीच में उसको भी कम करना है। 2016 में करीब 22% जो ग्लोबल इनकम थी वो सिर्फ टॉप 1% को रिसीव हुई थी, जबकि बॉटम 50 को सिर्फ 10% ऑफ द इनकम। इकोनॉमिक इनइक्वालिटी का जो रीजन दिया गया है इट इज अनइक्वल ओनरशिप ऑफ कैपिटल। कैपिटल से हम अंडरस्टैंड करते हैं कोई भी एसेट जैसे कि लैंड, कार, वी हैव हाउस, so these are the as capital. The global wealth share of top 1% was 33% in 2016. तो we can see the level of inequality. Top 1% को 22% इनकम मिल रही है और जो उनका ग्लोबल कैपिटल शेयर है, वेल्थ शेयर है, वो कितना है? 33%. Women on an average spend twice as much time on unpaid housework as men. और ये जो unpaid housework है ये कभी भी जीडीपी कैलकुलेशन में नहीं आता। The 11th Sustainable Development Goal is Sustainable Cities and Communities. The target is to make cities and human settlement inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. तो आज हमारा सिटीज पे बहुत ज़्यादा ध्यान है। रीजन बीइंग 2018 में करीब 420 करोड़ लोग आउट ऑफ 760 करोड़ जो वर्ल्ड की पॉपुलेशन है, 420 करोड़ लोग जो कि 55% ऑफ वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन है वो सिटीज में रह रही हैं। By 2050, the urban population is expected to reach 6.5 billion, which is 650 करोड़। करीब 83 करोड़ लोग are estimated to live in slums and the number is rising. That's why we are talking about inclusive habitats or inclusive cities. जो इकोनॉमिक रोल है सिटीज का वो बहुत सिग्निफिकेंट है। दे आर जनरेटिंग अबाउट 80% ऑफ ग्लोबल जीडीपी। यही रीजन है हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि सिटीज को खत्म करो एंड लेट्स गो बैक टू द रूरल वे। वी नीड जीडीपी ग्रोथ, वी नीड इनकम ग्रोथ एंड दैट्स व्हाई सिटीज आर इनकम जनरेटर्स। दे आर जीडीपी ग्रोथ में उनका बहुत बड़ा हाथ है। In the coming decades, 90% of urban expansion will be in the developing world. और इंडिया उनमें से एक कंट्री है डेवलपिंग वर्ल्ड में और बहुत सारा एक्सपेंशन अब इंडिया में भी होने वाला है। 2011 सेंसस के अकॉर्डिंग हमारा जो अर्बन पॉपुलेशन थी वो अराउंड 31% थी। नाउ दिस विल इंक्रीज very drastically and hence we need to make cities safe, inclusive, resilient and sustainable. The 12th SDG is responsible consumption and production. The objective is to ensure sustainable production and consumption patterns. हमारी दुनिया में करीब 130 करोड़ टन ऑफ फूड जो है वो हर साल वेस्ट होता है, जबकि 2 बिलियन लोग 200 करोड़ लोग ऐसे हैं दुनिया में या तो वो हंग्री हैं या फिर दे आर अंडर नरिश्ड एंड सरप्राइजिंगली दिस 1.3 बिलियन टन ऑफ फूड इज सफिशिएंट टू फीड दिस 200 crore people who are going hungry or are undernourished. हमारा जो फूड सेक्टर है वो करीब 22% कंट्रीब्यूट करता है टोटल ग्रीन हाउस गैस एमिशंस में। क्यों? क्योंकि हम फार्मलैंड क्रिएट करने के लिए वी क्लियर द फॉरेस्ट, और जब फॉरेस्ट क्लियर करते हैं, डिफॉरेस्टेशन करते हैं, तो उसकी वजह से क्या होता है, जो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एब्जॉर्प्शन होना था अब वो नहीं हो पाता एंड दिस ग्रीन हाउस गैस स्टार्ट्स एक्यूमुलेटिंग इन द एटमॉस्फेयर कॉजिंग क्लाइमेट चेंज। Hence, we need to make our production sustainable so as to contain the climate change. Globally, 2 billion people are overweight or obese. तो हम देख सकते हैं ये कहीं से भी responsible consumption pattern show नहीं कर रहा है। Only 3% of world's water is fresh water, which is drinkable. And humans are using it faster than nature can replenish it. हमारी नीति आयोग की भी रिसेंटली रिपोर्ट आई थी कि इंडिया में बहुत सारे जो बड़े सिटीज हैं वहां पे पानी खत्म हो रहा है, जो ड्रिंकिंग वाटर है वो खत्म हो रहा है धीरे धीरे। The 13th goal is climate action. The objective is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. हमारा जो टारगेट है टू कंटेन क्लाइमेट चेंज विद इन 2 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड of global warming above pre-industrial levels. However, as of 2017, humans are estimated to have caused approximately 1 degree centigrade of global warming already. We are striving hard to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. However, to limit this to 1.5, we need a reduction carbon dioxide by 45% between 2010 and 2030, and we need to reach net zero around 2050. However, the ground reality is that under the climate pledge, under the Paris Agreement, cover only one-third of the emission reductions needed to keep the world below 2 degrees centigrade. And hence, we need more pledges from the countries all over the world. Sea levels have already risen by about 20 centimeters since 1880 and are projected to rise another 30 to 120 centimeter by 2100. And this is going to cause great destruction along the coastal areas and is going to impact crores of people who are living along the coast. Another aspect of environment is oceans. So the 14th goal is life below water. The objective is to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. As much as 40% of the ocean is heavily polluted, and this is causing a depletion in fisheries. Fishes are a very important part of our nutrition security, a food security of humans, and hence we need to conserve our ocean resources. The ocean absorbs about 30% of carbon dioxide produced by humans. This acts as a buffering to the impacts of global warming. However, since we are causing acidification and loss of flora and fauna within the oceans, therefore, this buffer will reduce with time and is going to impact the climate change. More than 3 billion people depend on marine and coastal biodiversity for their livelihoods, and hence there is an urgent need to save our oceans. The 15th goal is life on land. This is also related to environment. The target is to protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halve biodiversity loss. Why do we need to do this? Because around 1.6 billion people depend on forest for their livelihoods, and around 2.6 billion people depend on agriculture. Forests are home to 80% of all terrestrial species of animals, plants, and insects, and we need this biodiversity for our survival. Also, nature-based climate solutions can contribute about a third of carbon dioxide reductions by 2030, and hence conserving our ecosystems on terrestrial on land, we can contain climate change as well. Every ecosystem provides some services, and the value of these services is around 125 trillion US dollar per year. If we go by global GDP of 2019, it was less than 91 trillion, and hence the value of natural ecosystem is more than the artificial GDP which we are creating. Mountain regions provide 60 to 80% of Earth's fresh water, and hence they need to be conserved. We have already seen that around 260 crore people depend directly on agriculture for a living. The 16th goal is peace, justice, and strong institutions. The objective is to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Why do we need these effective and accountable institutions? Because 2017 में करीब 70 करोड़ लोग had been forcefully displaced as a result of persecution, conflict, violence, or human rights violation. There are at least 10 million मतलब 1 करोड़ करीब ऐसे लोग हैं जो कि स्टेटलेस हैं, उनके पास कोई नेशनैलिटी नहीं है, and they have been denied their rights, basic human rights as well. Time and again we have been hearing about the Rohingya issue in Myanmar. There are 49 countries in the world which lack laws protecting women from domestic violence, and around 1 billion people are legally invisible because they cannot prove who they are, and hence they are out of social protection net of their own countries. The 17th goal is partnerships for the goals. The objective is to strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. According to UN Conference on Trade and Development, in SDGs को achieve करने के लिए we need around 5 to 7 trillion dollar in investment annually, which is quite high. And the total official development assistance as on 2017 was just 147.2 billion, which is far less than 5 to 7 trillion.
So I hope you understood all the 17 sustainable development goals. From the next video, we will be covering each one of them in detail. So the very first sustainable development goal is, okay, tell me in the comment section, which is the first one? Okay, so no poverty. So we will be covering the very first Sustainable Development Goal in detail along with all the government schemes. So stay tuned with Trailblazing for the next video, and please do not forget to subscribe, share and like Trailblazing. Thank you so much.